Thanks for joining us. We begin with a CBC News investigation. A Canadian corporation that owns thousands of rental units across the country says it is ending its use of YieldStar, the software said to help landlords set rental prices. Thing is, U.S. authorities say it's used to fix prices, contributing to the cost of living crisis. That U.S. antitrust case alleges that YieldStar's algorithms help landlords effectively collude to jack up rents. The allegations haven't been tested in court, but GWL Realty Advisors is one Canadian corporate landlord now publicly backing away from the software. So that announcement came after Anya Zolojowski began asking questions about YieldStar's use in Canada. And tonight, we begin with her investigation.
A corporate landlord in Canada says it has stopped using a controversial software that helped landlords set rent prices. In the course of a CBC News investigation, GWL Realty Advisors, a division of Canada Life, told us it is no longer using what's known as YieldStar. In the U.S., the parent company of YieldStar, RealPage, is facing government allegations of anti-competitive behavior.
Americans should not have to pay more in rent simply because a company has found a new way to scheme with landlords to break the law.
The Department of Justice claims that the software helps landlords to artificially inflate rents by improperly sharing information with one another. In a statement, RealPage says YieldStar is purposely built to be legally compliant and that it will vigorously defend itself.
Every single landlord who has been using it should be held accountable.
Cynthia Black rents her apartment from GWL Realty Advisors, which CBC News has confirmed has used the software.
How dare my landlord be using this software that's under investigation for price fixing in the States?
After multiple email requests to GWL Realty Advisors asking whether or not it used YieldStar, the company sent a statement. After an internal review, GWLRA has decided to terminate the use of YieldStar. The decision comes after more than 100 tenants have asked Canada's Competition Bureau to investigate the use of YieldStar in Canada. Among them, tenants living in another building linked to YieldStar. CBC obtained an affidavit submitted by the building's property manager that names YieldStar. It says, in order to calculate the estimated market rents for a given apartment, we use software that is commonly used by many large corporate landlords in Canada and the United States. That program is called YieldStar. But the building's landlord, Dream Unlimited, told CBC News it has never subscribed to YieldStar or taken its recommendations when it comes to rental prices. It also instructed its property manager to discontinue its use of YieldStar. We reached out to the Competition Bureau, and a spokesperson confirmed that it did receive the complaints. But Adrian, we still don't know whether they have plans to investigate the use of YieldStar here in Canada.
Unlike the United States, it seems like Canada is still in the very early days of the story. But as I understand it, people have already been reaching out to you.
Yeah, so tenants actually reached out and flagged the story because of previous housing coverage that the National has done already. We heard from tenants about their concerns that rents were possibly being set by software that's under investigation in the U.S. And then they told us about their plans to take complaints to the Competition Bureau. It is still early. And so if there are any viewers out there who are watching and concerned about the use of YieldStar by landlords, I encourage them to reach out to us.
As always. All right, Anya, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Major change tonight in Quebec. For those,
this is very, very much just like an embodiment of how capitalist exploitation operates in the current Western framework of turning housing, a basic human need, into mode of maximizing profit for this wealthy elite that have become more and more entangled in these scams, right? And it's all at the expense, not even just lower class people, it's at the expense of everyone, like from lower class people, but then all the way up, just because it is a part of inflation. Like it is a part of the inflated market, speculative real estate, and the price fixing that keeps this speculative bubble afloat. This technology really enables landlords to drive up rent prices by removing any type of individual accountability and empathy from rent decisions. It shifts the responsibility to this algorithm that prioritizes profit over people. This dynamic not only widens wealth inequality, but it also exemplifies the commodification of technology that serves private profit rather than societal needs. The Yield Star effectively centralizes control over rental prices and allows property owners to mimic cartel-like behavior by creating this coordinated mechanism for rent increases. It restricts fair competition and fundamentally distorts the housing market. And in doing so, it undermines any pretense of a free market, right? Instead, it's constructing this controlled environment where profit is it overrides any type of ethical concern for tenant welfare or even societal welfare, right? And it's this coordinated price inflation that serves to entrench economic inequality, and it compounds the hardships that are faced by renters just in general, not just lower class, but people who rent. And it's never defined by, there's middle class people who are, because of the way that the economy works, there's a whole generation of middle class people who don't have the resources to be able to afford a home, like myself, who are just going to be renting their entire lives, right? And the introduction of this type of technology is definitely like a form of techno-feudalism, like the digital landlord, where the algorithm becomes the gatekeeper that further alienates tenants from stable, affordable housing. And the power of housing corporations and developers becomes hyper magnified when it's backed by this type of technology, because it systematically displaces people from their homes and communities to boost corporate earnings, right? Like the human element of it is completely stripped and extracted away. And by perpetuating these types of ever rising rent prices, the Yield Star really helps foster a feedback loop that drives the working class into deeper precarity. And then it widens this chasm between landlords and tenants in both economic security and quality of life. This company, RealPage, like the practices here, if you're critiquing it, not just as it being legally questionable, but morally tenable, it's not in a society that claims to value fairness and equality in any type of way, which our leaders claim that, but we know by just looking throughout society in general, that's not the case. These type of software manipulations really exacerbates a structural crisis in affordable housing. And it just really illustrates how unrestrained capitalism has become and how it allows just a few people to profit immensely at the expense of a whole majority of people. Rather than addressing housing needs or improving living conditions in any way, this software Yield Star really reflects a systemic prioritization of wealth accumulation, and it places housing security out of the reach for countless millions of people, right? So not even just from a progressive leftist perspective, just from a perspective of someone who wants to live in a society that is stable, this type of technology really serves as a stark reminder of how capitalism is dehumanizing all of us at an accelerated rate. And it has an impact on essential aspects of life, really. And it just makes it clear that housing policy should be focused on public welfare, not profit, right? The government tomorrow can make profitizing the housing market illegal. And this situation really underlined the urgent need for policy reform. It includes rent control, affordable public housing, and stronger tenant protections to reclaim housing as a right and counterbalance, which would keep unchecked power of corporate landlords, the harmful consequences of their driven practices. It would counterbalance that. And that's really what we need. And I don't know if that's ever going to come, to be honest, or if it's ever going to come.